Call of Duty World at War, a game I am very late to the party when saying it's one of my favorites in the series. Being the first of its kind in the series, the zombies mode has always been very interesting to me. The Treyarch didn't know exactly what to do with this new mode, so they obviously had to experiment a lot, and that led to a very interesting selection of weapons that I think is still probably the most unique in the series. Many of these weapons actually became the base for all of the others to come after them, while others would just forever remain as a strange oddball. So here I am, 16 years after release, to give an in-depth look and rank all of World at War's zombie weapons. We only have one gun in F tier, and in fact it's so good that I've promptly named the tier after that gun. It's a Springfield. It's fucking garbage. We all know it's garbage. You know it's garbage. Hell, they probably knew it was garbage when they put it in. But I mean, just looking at it, it's a fucking 2-shot to the body on round 1. And round 1 is the only time it's a 1-shot headshot. And apparently the sights are also fucked up, so you can't even aim right with it. I wanted to tell you guys exactly how bad this is, but funny enough, you can't really find stats for this thing on like any of the wikis where I find all the info. And this one with the Pack-a-Punch variants shows it with a scope for some reason, and the numbers don't add up because it is a one-shot kill headshot on the first round, but it wouldn't be according to these numbers. So I've been led to believe that it's just so bad that no one wanted to document anything about it. So it gets the honorary status at Springfield tier. Okay, D tier. These weapons still suck, but they're usable, so they're better than the Springfield. I think the Panzer Shrek is the weakest of these. Just in general, I fucking hate launchers. They suck. And this one has all the downsides of a typical launcher with the slow aim speed, the large radius but not actually that good at damage, the super low reload, the one shot. It's bad. The worst is probably definitely the mobility though. Just not being able to get around is hard, especially in a game like World at War where movement in general is a lot stiffer than normal. In Pact, it becomes the Longinus and takes on an earlier version of what we'd see with most launchers, and that is a semi-auto now with 3 whole shots. The mobility is a lot better admittedly, and the 3 shots is definitely nice, though the damage does sit into a kind of comfortable area that a lot of these launchers tend to go into. The main boost is the explosion radius, however, being like 5 times as big as it was before. It's genuinely pretty dangerous to have around yourself, honestly. In the end, though, it's a launcher. We know those are bad, and it's on Derice, so it's not a super launcher-friendly map in general. At 24, we got the Kar 98K, which if you've heard of bad World of War weapons, then this is probably the one you think of first. And I gotta say, I think it gets a bad rap. I think this weapon is great for what you pay for. Well, I think great might be pushing it, but it's better than people would lead you to believe it is. With these stats, it's a 1-shot headshot to round 3, which is not bad really. I mean, provided you can hit your shots, I clearly can't, you can realistically be carried by it up to round 3 at least, and even further if you really want to go that far. But by then, you should have more than enough points to get basically anything you want and get anywhere you want. With a hefty 10 times multiplier on the head, you could get pretty far realistically with the Pack-a-Punch version. Also, uniquely large ×6 multiplier on the body means that you don't even have to hit your headshots to get a decent ways in. The body shots only last to round 13, but you can get to round 16 with 1 shot to the head. I mean, that feels a lot better than all these top 10 listers would lead you to believe, really. But in the end, it is still a bolt-action gun that is very weak base-wise, so towards the bottom of the list I think is very fair, but not the worst, I don't think. Also, the Ariska takes a spot too, but who fucking cares about it, honestly. Right above it is the scoped Kar 98K. Why this gun is separate from the Kar 98K? I don't know. Why it's only unlocked? Why there's like no information on it? Why it's even in the game? I don't know, honestly. It serves as a more powerful version of the Kar 98K, with the downside being that it has a scope and it has to reload its rounds one at a time. As far as the exact damage, again, I could not find like any information on this thing, but it's decently powerful, really. I think somewhere into the teens it goes for one shot, even just to the body. Due to it being only unnocked, though, there's not a ton to say about it, really, and it would have been interesting to see elsewhere, but I think it's just a slightly better car for now, and that's where it'll sit on the tier list. 22 goes to the old reliable M1911. I mean, yeah, obviously it's terrible. It's the starting weapon. It's not supposed to be good at all. It's just supposed to get you points. But, you know, you might be thinking, well, what about the Pack-a-Punch version? That one's so good. It is still good, yes, but it is a little different from the one we all know, and I don't know, it's just never been my favorite. Obviously, conceptually, it's fucking awesome, a goddamn pistol shooting rocket shells. Although the damage is pretty good, matching the Longinus and essentially being a weaker, slower version of the ray gun. It's good and bad, I guess, that the explosion radius is not as big as some of the other launchers, and it's a little harder to down yourself with this one. And similar to the Longinus, unfortunately, the Darice is just not the best map to use a weapon like this, so it's kind of hard to really get good use out of it. I don't know, but for now, I think towards the bottom of the tier list is the best spot for it at the moment. C tier, these weapons are about as average as it gets. So let's start it off with the Gewehr 43, and well, honestly, while we're at it, let's bring in the M1 Carbine and the M1 Grand. So these three are all different in the non-packed variants, but when they're packed, they're clearly meant to be very similar to each other. The only real separators here are that the Gewehr has the biggest ammo pool, the M1 Grand has the fastest reload, and the M1 Carbine gets the biggest clip. Not exactly game-changing decisions when choosing one or the other. The only thing the Gewehr has is its ammo count, and also being a wall weapon is very helpful. But the M1 Carbine is also a wall weapon. And the Gewehr doesn't get to become full auto like the M1 Carbine does, so that just kind of leaves it versus the M1 Grand. Unfortunately for it, this version of the M1 Grand is kind of just here on a technicality, since you can't even get this version in Darice. In general, the M1 Grand just does a little more damage than the base version, and it has a far better reload, so I think it's just better. As far as just the solo M1000, I don't have much to say on it really. I'll have more to say on the Imploder later, but I don't know, I just tend to like it a little better than the Gewehr. The M1 Carbine's honestly kind of interesting. You don't see a lot of these that go from semi to full auto. That full auto and that marginally bigger clip is honestly enough for me to put it as the best among these three. Next up is the BAR. Stats are honestly pretty underwhelming. You're supposed to be able to do more damage if your fire rate's going to be that low and not have very much ammo, but it just doesn't. The 100 starting damage looks pretty average to mediocre, but with that 2x chest multiplier, which is kind of rare for guns, honestly, it makes it so unless you completely miss, you're always going to be doing double damage. One major downside it has that basically no other gun has is just the crazy price they're asking for it. If you buy it on Verrucht, it has the bipod, which is unusable, for 2,500 points, which is insane considering you can get the Thompson and the trench gun before that for much better prices. Pack-a-Punch, unfortunately, isn't much of a different story. A little more damage, a little more ammo, a little better fire rate, but nothing to really warrant going out of your way to pick it up. The PTRS is essentially the only example of a sniper actually being good at killing straight out of the box. What this means is that this has essentially the most useless Pack-a-Punch of all time. All you get is a slightly better chest multiplier, which, to be fair, is not terrible, I guess. A bigger clip, no, not more ammo, just a bigger clip, and the ability to hit 5 zombies with 1 bullet. I'm not saying it needs even more damage, but like, Jesus Christ, at least give a little more ammo or something else that's worth paying that much for it. Honestly, if you don't run out of ammo, I don't really see a reason to go for that. But honestly, to warrant that, you'd have to warrant a reason to use this gun in the first place over basically anything else, so happy hunting. Yeah, but in Gmod, this thing is stupid broken.
Jimmy, was he a frog?
Alright, in B tier we have a couple solid weapons that just have a few flaws, or weapons that are just unfortunately outclassed by others after it. The 357 is our first 6-shooter revolver style pistol in the box, and it's honestly one of the better ones, surprisingly. As you can see, it's getting a one-shot kill on round 10, which is something that no other revolver in the Black Ops series can do. The Python, Executioner, and even the Remington Army all stop killing at round 9. Even though the numbers for these guns are clearly better, and even the health stats themselves say that it shouldn't kill on this round, here it is, killing on this round. Also gets the advantage of having the speed reloader right off the bat without having to pack it. Unfortunately for it though, it does not get the substantial boosts that the others do when packed, and is unfortunately a lot weaker. Overall though, it's not bad, so I think bottom of B tier, right in the middle of the list, is fitting. Next up is, I guess, 2 slots because they were counted separately on my tier list. The double barrel shotgun and the sawed-off double barrel shotgun. To start, apparently the only differences are more spread versus more range. I couldn't really find much of a difference in the spread, so the more range is definitely better in my mind, so I put the double barrel, the normal variant, on top. Mainly serves as a second door wall weapon that usually sits alongside a Tommy, but to be honest, I don't know why you would ever choose this over the Thompson. I mean, I'll admit, when I first started playing, I used this a ton. I love double barrels, but, you know, looking back, there's not too many advantages, honestly. It does kill and have a decent bit of ammo for starters, but that's about where the advantages end, unfortunately. The nature of a double barrel is that you're going to be reloading a lot, and that really gets in the way a lot of the times. And it's something that unfortunately isn't fixed when it's pack-a-punched. You're still going to be shooting 2 rounds at a time. Now, true to its name, the 24 bore long range, it does get a huge range boost. The damage is pretty good, but you're still fighting the gun itself, unfortunately. I think that drags it down, even with all the good stuff. This might be my new favorite gun from this game, the M1 Garand, but with the grenade launcher. I think this gun is fighting Mustang and Sally for the best launcher-style gun we have ever seen. For starters, I mean, just look at it. That reload time is nothing. You can just rapid fire these things left and right. And unlike most launchers unpacked, it actually still killing past round 9, 10, 11. The best part is that you're getting 2 guns in one. You can use the launcher part to tear through the crowds and then use the M1 for cleanup. When packed, the damage matches the Panzerschreck and the M1911 when packed, so you're essentially getting a more mobile, faster shooting Panzerschreck, along with an M1000. That means you also get the absolutely absurd explosion area. I mean, this thing is massive. I mean, just imagine this thing on a map like Ascension, or just another open map with Flopper. It's not broken, unfortunately. It stops killing around 17, 18 range, but still, I think it's pretty solid for what it is. And all the attempts afterwards with the underbarrel attachments in Black Ops 1 and such were a lot weaker, and just in general weren't as effective as this one is. At 12 is an absolute classic, the MP40, and I gotta say, I really struggled with this placement. It's mainly fighting with the 2 in front of it, the STG and the FG42. The main dilemma is the fight between damage versus ammo. The MP40 is sitting in the prestigious 200 with a 5x multiplier club, but it only has 192 rounds, same as the base version. Its competitors both have lower damage, sometimes much lower damage, but far more ammo. STG also has the advantage of a better fire rate, with the FG42 having a much better fire rate. And sure, you could say to just get double tap, but the other guns get even better with double, whereas MP40 has to have it to kind of compete in the first place. And while it's still good and it'll always be one of my favorites, it's not quite the easy A tier that I thought it was. Now, the STG is unfortunately not also without its flaws, but I think it's just better enough to be above the MP40. It's also pretty similar to the MP40 at base, with decent ammo and not bad damage, but a pretty poor fire rate. It gets the advantage, however, in almost doubling its ammo count. Again, the damage boost isn't bad, but it's not quite top tier with some of the others. It actually matches the PPSH, but of course, the STG is not this. So it'll sit towards the top of B tier as a good solid weapon, but not one of those top tier ones you're really looking for. Last up for B tier is the FG42. Now, originally I was not going to have this one as high, because you've probably already seen its main flaw, damage. But over time, reliability is something that I've kind of valued more and more, and having 400 spare rounds with a 64 round clip is pretty solid. It also has another thing I've really started to value more and more, fire rate. I've never really noticed it, but a bad fire rate on your MG can completely make or break a gun, essentially. That's why solid guns with good damage, such as the HK from Black Ops 1 or the Gorgon from Black Ops 3, are solid, but that fire rate really holds them back. Okay, maybe not the Gorgon, but you get the idea. Now, the damage on the FG is a problem. Definitely, I'm not going to say it's not. But that fire rate combined with a little bit of double tap definitely helps to close the gap a little bit. And with almost twice as many rounds as other MGs have to throw at the zombies, it's definitely not a bad idea to think about picking this up. A tier, these are solid weapons that you can pretty much always think about picking up, starting with the Type 100. This gun feels pretty slept on, honestly. There's not a lot of people that talk about it when you talk about the best guns in World of War. And at first glance, it may seem like just a solid B tier weapon. It's got a good fire rate, a good clip size, decent bit of spare ammo, and it also has the highest headshot damage of any of these machine guns. That's not something you'll ever really hear about, and I think it really gives it a nice boost when compared to its other lower B tier weapons. Now, unfortunately, the ammo is kind of low and it doesn't make it the most reliable, but I think it makes it just reliable enough that you could warrant using this a decent amount. But if you want reliability, you're just gonna have to go with the Thompson. This is just the quintessential wall weapon, and it's honestly one of the best we've ever had across all games. You can see its stats almost mirrored perfectly by the AK-74U across the later titles. But as far as damage, ammo, fire rate, capacity, it's got the best of just about everything. Its biggest flaw is its ammo, but it's really not that bad considering it's better than the MP40 and the Type 100, but a little worse than the SCG and the FG42. Overall, a gun that just doesn't have any strict downsides in a game like World of War is really hard to find, so I think 8's pretty good. 7 goes to the trench gun, which is just the quintessential shotgun essentially. Almost all shotguns after were based pretty directly on this version. This one actually surprised me a little bit. I was originally going to have this a little bit lower, but due to just this sheer reliability and power in this thing, I had to bring it up a little bit. The only thing the double barrel has on this is a little more damage, but in the end, that's not too much of a problem when you have 5 times as many shells. And unlike the double barrel, this does get a fix to help the reload when you pack-a-punch it. Because obviously, even as quick as it is, reloading 6 shells one at a time is very time-consuming, and reloading 10 shells would have been even worse. So loading them 2 at a time is a very nice thing to not make it broken, but make it obviously far better. It gets the damage to match, where apparently it kills to around round 25 or so for a one shot. That's pretty damn good for a shotgun. Definitely a little bit of an unorthodox A tier, but I think it's got just enough power to keep it up here running with the rest of these A and S tiers. At number 6, we have the classic ray gun. We all know about the ray gun, so I don't have to talk about it too much, I don't think. It shreds pretty good up into the high teens about, and then it starts becoming a 2-shot or so. But thankfully that's okay, considering we have 20 rounds in the base version. The Pack-a-Punch version does what I think should just be the baseline for every Pack-a-Punch. It mainly just doubles all the ammo, which I don't know why that's not standard. Who knows, but I think that definitely should be. Now this particular version of the ray gun is dangerous. It will obliterate you in one shot on Noct, Verruct, and Shinonuma, but in Doris it was made to the more standard 2-hit down. Gotta say, the Pack-a-Punch skin is one of my favorite here. I think the blue and silver engravings work really nicely together on it. But besides that, gets some more damage, gets way more ammo, just becomes a good, solid, reliable sidearm that you can pull out in a panic situation. 5 is the Wonderwaff. I don't think I really need to explain why it's good. It's got infinite damage, it arcs to hit up to 10 zombies with one shot. It's pretty good. As you just saw right there, it actually arcs way bigger, like way farther than I thought it did. I haven't actually used the Waff a ton. But obviously, being one of 2 infinite damage weapons in the game, it's gotta be one of the best. And when packed, you basically just get more ammo, which is great for a gun that doesn't have very much. The ability to guarantee to kill 60 zombies in one clip is pretty good, and honestly gets a lot of ammo compared to most of these infinite damage wonder weapons. Now I can't go talking about it without bringing up its biggest flaw: hitting yourself. Now obviously anyone that talks about this ever will say, oh, it just takes away your jug. And while it does, that's not what's happening here. It's actually taking away your regeneration. As I speed up the clip here, you'll see when I get hit, I only take 1 hit to go down. It's actually a great video by Frenzy talking more about this. I'll link it down below so you guys can see it. It describes a little better about how this works. But obviously this is a horrible flaw, not being able to regen after hitting yourself. It's really drags down the Waff. But with how limited the selection is in World of War, I don't think it drags it down enough to take it out of the top 5. S tier, best weapons in the game, starting with the flamethrower. Now, if you're just a casual player, this thing sucks. It can't really reliably kill on its own past like round 10. But a gun with infinite damage and infinite ammo is going to be exploited to hell and back. This thing is crucial in Nocturne Toten high round runs, and even a lot of Verrucht runs as well. It's kind of like the jet gun, and where it's good just because it's infinite. It'll never run out of ammo. And to me, honestly, it just feels like a better jet gun because it's got range and it won't break on you. It obviously will overheat, and that overheat does take some time to get back, but if you're a pro at this game, you can definitely get around that. But even just as a casual player, there are definitely ways to get around it and have fun with this weapon. Really sucks because there's voice lines in Black Ops 1 hinting towards this gun actually being in 5 and Kino, which would have been awesome to see it return, but when packed you get the basic, little more damage, you can fire for longer, it cools down faster, but the main thing is that you get better mobility, which is very nice for a gun like this that's pretty blatantly designed for training. It may seem weird to put it above the Waff, but just the fact that it doesn't have any crucial downsides like that makes me, I think it takes a spot above it. Now, if you're not a high round zombie player, you're going to want one of these 3 guns, starting with the Browning M1919. It's kind of just the quintessential light machine gun, really. It's a big, huge gun with a lot of bullets, a lot of damage, good fire rate, and a slow reload. The thing that puts it here, though, is definitely the reload. It can be really detrimental sometimes. Think of the RPD from Black Ops 2, essentially. The ammo count is obviously fantastic and will keep you going for a long time before running out. Well, I said the damage was good, I did not say it was great, unfortunately, and that was one thing that does not get boosted when pack-a-punching. Double tap is always a good option, because it's a good fire rate, but again, not great. Obviously, the thing that makes it S tier is the fact that it's a reliable weapon in a game of unreliable weapons. LMGs usually always sneak their way into being one of the best weapons in each game, but these 2 in particular both have, I think, the highest ammo count of any LMG ever. So that, in turn, also makes them very reliable again. I think you get the idea by now. It's just a big gun with a lot of bullets and enough damage to get the job done. Not much else to say on it, really. So how do we improve from the last LMG? Well, we just take it and make everything faster. And that's where the MG42 comes in. Fire rate and reload both get a substantial boost compared to the Browning. In fact, when pack-a-punch with double tap, its fire rate is second only to the PPSH. And you can see the reload. It's not bad at all for an LMG if we're being real, especially for one from World at War where reload canceling is basically non-existent. The damage is unfortunately the same as the kind of mediocre M1919 damage, but it gets a bonus 0.5 multiplier on the head, something the Browning does not. And if we're being real, the damage difference isn't too great, but when you're shooting like this, it can add up pretty quickly. There's essentially no other LMG that even comes close to this fire rate, and that fire rate does a lot to make up for its somewhat mediocre damage, honestly. But there is one gun still, with both a better fire rate and better damage. That of course being the PPSH. It really gave the power and ammo of an LMG to an SMG. It's got 115 rounds, 700 in reserve with a lightning fast reload, and a ludicrously fast fire rate. I mean, if you add it up, we're talking almost 2,000 rounds a minute. Nothing else even comes close, I don't think. It missed out on being in the 200 damage club, but again, that fire rate goes a long way to make up for the slight dip in damage. I don't even really have to say much, just watch what's on the screen. The push is going to rock forever. Keep in mind that this was before we had Double Tap 2.0, so the potential of this thing was through the roof. Honestly, it really sucks when they brought it back for Black Ops 3 and then inadvertently nerfed it when I think they were trying to buff it. I mean, yeah, that damage boost is pretty substantial, but its whole deal was the fire rate. And again, it's still not bad, but it's still almost halved from its full potential in World at War. But honestly, I think I'm just complaining at this point, so with that, ends this World at War zombie weapons tier list. Tell me what you thought of this video. That would be really appreciated. And obviously, if you've been around the channel, you know that I don't usually do voice work on any of my videos. So tell me what you think. Was this the worst 27 minutes of your life having to listen to me or not? Let me know down below. Thanks.